Hi, I'm Duncan Gutteridge and you're watching RetroUnlim.com.
To a Play Expo Masterclass, and ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Duncan Gutteridge. Hands on, should we go?
Thank you very much.
Don't worry, so just put you at ease. No. Also putting you at ease by saying we haven't done one of these before.
I haven't done one of these before.
There we go. So we always have some great visitors and great guests to come to all of the replay events, and I love hosting and doing these talks with people. So we get to talk about these things in gaming that we all love so much. Sonic the Hedgehog. Right, let's have a show of hands. Who has got any Sonic game at all? Yeah! Is anybody feeling like I'm in the wrong part of the hotel? I thought this was a talk on football. What's going on? No, this isn't the football stuff. Hello, come on in. Come up to the front if you like. Come on in, come on in. And we're going to be doing a bit of drawing as well. So we will be doing some art during this one as well. You have pens and paper. If anybody would like a pen and paper and hasn't got any already, the amazing Anna over here. That's you.
At the back there.
That's you, Anna. We've got more pads and paper and things. Are we, yeah, cool. Yeah, if you haven't got any, keep your hand up and we'll get some to you. Duncan, then, absolutely fantastic artist, responsible for character we all know and love very well. But let's talk a little bit before we get into that, because we will be doing some live drawing and you'll be teaching us some stuff. And we will get to join in as well. Let's talk a little bit about you.
Okay, yep.
So, in terms of when you started out, when you were young, did you have like a natural affinity for drawing and art? Was it something that always interested you? I
certainly did, yeah. I remember drawing from a really young age, and it's something, you know, I've always enjoyed, you know, continuously, really. So it seemed like a natural progression that I would end up doing something creative.
So you were always aspiring to be a paid artist, and that be your living when you got older?
I was, yeah, from quite a young age, actually, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Seemed to be quite a strong vocation. But
to put it delicately, the gaming industry wasn't massive back when we all started out and we were younger, playing games and looking at the gaming industry. So, as an artist, did you think gaming was something you would ever end up in?
No, actually, getting into the sort of gaming industry with Sonic was quite a big surprise, actually.
Was that your first part in gaming at all?
It was, yeah.
That's a huge responsibility to take on.
It was, yeah. It was a little bit scary, but, you know, I was always up for something a little bit different, so that's good.
So before we come to Sonic, let's go back a little bit. So you were naturally good at art, so it was something you were interested in. So is there anything we might know you for outside of gaming prior to Sonic even? What sort of things did you work on? What were you doing as a living artist?
As a living artist, I used to do a lot of publishing work, in sort of general publishing, so I used to work a lot for sort of mainstream publishers. I did sort of book jackets for things like Jeffrey Archer's books and things like that, so, you know, a range of those sorts of things. I was also known for, shall we say, portrayals of glamorous ladies, should I say that as well, and sort of working for, so putting it as tactfully as possible. Yeah, I worked for Playboy and sort of magazines like that as well. As an illustrator, yeah, which they didn't use very often. So yeah, there's that side of things as well. In fact, it was the realistic sort of airbrush illustrations that I was more known for that led me to do the Sonic work, actually, strangely enough.
Playboy?
Yes.
Well, that's not something I expected to realise at any point.
Sorry, I hope
during this afternoon or any other gaming convention I work at, if I'm totally honest. It's taken a different turn for a Saturday afternoon.
Okay, but that was just a very brief segue, probably best left alone, but yes, yeah, that was...
okay, so you were working as an artist for a number of years for big names then, so you were well established.
Yeah, reasonably well established, yeah, publishers and things.
So, were you also a gamer?
I wasn't, actually, because back in the day, you know, it would have been Mario and, well, there wasn't too much. I mean, on my extent with actual gaming itself, perhaps I feel I shouldn't be confessing this really in this environment, but would have been sort of spent in sort of pubs playing Space Invaders and things like that. So that's my sort of
that's all right, isn't it?
gaming.
That's all right,
is that okay?
Yeah, of course it is. You've seen our arcade hall.
Yeah. that sort of thing. That's my background.
Okay, so games were something you knew a little bit of, but not necessarily home consoles and the like.
No, I didn't. But I was aware of Sonic, and obviously my kids actually at the time were more aware than I was, and they were sort of really excited when the prospect of doing them.
So you had kids who were gamers, young gamers?
Yeah, very young gamers.
Did they have Sega stuff at home? More than anything?
No, I think they used to actually play it around their mates, mainly, because it was actually at the time there weren't that many around, you know, the sort of consoles around. So.
Yeah. Do you want to put a year on any of this? Do you want to pin them?
Yeah, my first association with Sega was 92, so 1992. So that's like a year after the birth of Sonic, I believe. If my history is correct, somebody knows.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Is that right? Yeah, 25 years old this year?
Yeah. That's it.
Cool, that's good.
So how did Sega find you? How did Sonic find you?
Right, good question actually. It was my first contact actually was through an agency. So an agency saw my work. They had
Playboy?
no.
That blue-haired model publishers. It reminds us of something.
I should never have mentioned it. Forget Playboy. Other publishing stuff. Okay, quite.
Other magazines are available.
Yeah.
Okay, but you were well known, so you're working through an agency.
I was, yeah.
Okay. So do you know what it was that they saw? Serious question.
Do you know, I can't remember actually. At the time, we didn't have all the wonderful things you have nowadays, that sort of advertising work and promoting it online. It was all expensive publications which you had to put work in and hope that somebody would eventually look at them.
Were you actively seeking, not drilling into Playboy?
No.
But were you known for doing realistic work as opposed to made-up characters?
No, that's right, yeah. So my background was realistic work, illustration work, and primarily airbrush work. So that's something that I started airbrushing when I was about 17, and it was that style that the agency saw, and they could see how it could be used, or you know, for the purpose of working with Sega and Sonic, basically.
So you hadn't done characters, you hadn't been sort of making up fantasy images, sci-fi images, monsters, anything like that at all?
No, I mean the actual skills required for the job really were more to do with general illustration skills, interpreting a character, working from basic style guides, and then putting a bit of input and a bit of spin after producing a lot of visuals and drawings. Yeah.
So they found you, and when you were first approached by Sega, you knew who they were because of your kids?
I did, yeah. And I had heard of Sonic the Hedgehog, so yeah, I was pretty excited when I drove down to sort of meet the client and sort of talk it all through. So yeah, it was really, you know, it was an
So this was something that appealed to you? You didn't think, oh well,
no.
I've got some time, it's a paid job on a big brand?
No, it was great. It was a bit nerve-wracking actually. I mean, but I tend to just get on with stuff anyway, even if I feel a bit nerve-wracking. I'm always interested in doing something new. I always like a challenge, so yeah, it was great.
Fantastic. So there was a Sonic. You didn't make the very, very first Sonic, but
no.
You are responsible for the Sonic we're familiar with from a long time ago, as we say, we're talking back many years ago in Sonic's history. Yeah,
you would be familiar with some Sonic from that particular era, and the era I'm talking about, the time I was working, was just a short period of time actually, from 92 to 94, so it doesn't sound too long. But Sonic was going through quite an evolution at the time, and obviously still continued to for a while after that.
Do you have, like, the very first thing you did?
I do, strangely enough. I have brought it with me. I don't know how much you'll be able to see at the back.
I'll bring it, I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll show
but if I can put the mic down for a sec.
Do you want to tell people this one I'll hold?
That's a good idea. Oh, actually, I could hold it.
That's all right,
I'll tell you what, you hold that. Thank you. Sorry, I'm getting bossy now. I'm getting overly confident. Okay, so this is my first work for Sega. The calendar, beautifully produced calendar. I mean, I still love the look of it nowadays. You know, so go back to it.
Can I open this up? Is it your work all through, or is it?
Yeah, it's all my work. So you'll see, and it's going to lead to an explanation in a minute, and this is the explanation coming up here. So there's a lot of confusion about me doing the cover for Sonic 2. So I'm standing before you now and confessing that I didn't do the cover for Sonic 2, but that was actually used as one of the starting points for creating this sort of new, quite hard-edged, glossy style for Sega. That's what they wanted to do. So there was artwork in Europe, there was artwork in Japan, and in America, but they wanted to sort of, it was the European sort of branch that I was working for, and they wanted to, carry on. So that's the link there. Got some other images. What was really nice about this calendar, actually, I had a lot of freedom, because obviously the game and the characters sort of in pixel form are quite sort of limited what you actually see, and I had quite a freedom to actually create semi-real environments, and actually, as it turns out, this one key point itself, not really real in relation to the character. So obviously Sonic would not generally be diving underwater confidently about to rescue Tails. I think it would be quite different, but I don't think from a dramatic point of view, from an art point of view, Sonic with his hands in the air with bubbles coming out would be quite as appealing. Okay, so he's quite a hero, so we wanted him to be a bit more heroic than that. But here we go. Lovely sort of chance really to actually create a little bit of perspective. So the character really was sort of taking on more 3 dimensions then, so the illustrations, so from before. Really nice images to work with, just seasonal ones. Unfortunately there's only one illustration for 2 months, so we've come to the end of that. You'll see throughout it as well, us artists at the time, we used to have to do things like the logos as well, so they were all illustrated, so not done on a computer, not set with type and then sort of rendered in sort of Illustrator or Photoshop, so it's all hand work, time consuming.
All of it hand work?
Yeah, so
that's important. Let's touch on technology era. We've already established when we're talking about here. So yeah, this is all. So what sort of media are you working in?
It's it would be airbrush.
Yeah.
So basically, are you all familiar with what airbrush works like? So basically, the paint's sprayed. So it's quite a controlled spray of work. You have to use masking film, cut stencils, really fine stencils to control the paint. Particularly for these sort of applications, so there's a lot of fiddly manipulation of colour, really.
Yeah, you've done a lot of these sort of, as you mentioned, the glossy style. So you've got all these sort of glossy highlights and edges, and sort of multiple pieces. You've broken it down and you've broken it down again.
Yeah.
The sort of thing we'd be doing strokes with an Illustrator without thinking about it whatsoever.
Yeah, that's
with
right.
an airbrush, manually, very different.
Yeah, I had to cut a little stencil out for all of the areas here. Wherever there's a highlight, there's a strip of masking film. You spray your dark colours first, and then you take the masking film off, spray the lighter colours, build it up, you can rub it away, scratch back. So it's all really sort of hands-on stuff. Not very forgiving from the point of view of making mistakes either. I wished back then I had the undo button. But
if you've never used an airbrush and you are an artist, spend some time with one, because I think that sort of hands-on is very valuable, isn't it? But also, you'll realise how much easier tools are now than the old airbrush thing. But I think you develop a lot of skill manually using an airbrush and getting scripts with it.
You do. It's quite a strange skill actually, airbrushing, because unlike most media that you're working with, is you don't touch the paper. So that's quite a strange thought. You never actually touch the paper. You do when you cut the stencils, but when you're actually applying paint, it's all sort of movements in sort of in the air, basically closer or further away to control it. So that way, it's quite a bizarre sort of process, really.
So Sega come to you. There is a Sonic. What do they present you with? What are you asked to do, and what do they give you to help you do it?
Okay. What they gave me initially is they gave me a style guide, of which I have an example here, and I'm going to be handing those out later for you to help you with your drawings that you're going to do.
Is this a copy of the actual one?
That is a copy of the actual one from 1992 or 1 or whatever. So that's what I would have been given. Really simple line drawing, different viewpoints, different poses. So as you can probably see, if you look at these, obviously you see it more easily when they're handed out. The difference between the line drawing there and then creating the sort of the 3-dimensional looking sort of fully rendered character is quite a bit, and that's the bit that you know, we had to work on.
So say you come to you, they go, this is what it looks like, we already love this character.
Yeah. Okay.
You have to make him better, glossier, newer, sell millions.
Yeah.
No pressure.
No, I didn't feel any pressure really. They didn't. That's only because they didn't say that actually.
I won't get into pitching then to artists. There was some pressure in there still. Surely you've got kids who like Sega. They go around their friends' houses and play Sega games. None of this world is entirely new to you. You're not going, it's Sonic for something. I don't care. And then you realise it's massive.
I did care. I did care.
Yeah. And was it really open? What do they want you to make this stuff for? Were they saying, right, you know, it's posters and box art, or was it game characters for you know, scanning or coding? What were all the elements that you were responsible for?
That's a really good question. It was actually just an overview of the character, because they liked, and quite understandably so, they liked the rendering of Sonic on Sonic 2, which was done by a gentleman in America. So that was the sort of direction they wanted to sort of take elements of that. There's quite a contrast between his artwork and the artwork for Sonic 1. That was a lot flatter, simpler, you know, and it didn't have that sort of three-dimensional quality.
Was that because of the games? Was that because it was a character who was being developed from artist to artist to artist, so naturally they took a concept and then they changed it, and then someone added to it and someone added to it? Or was it because they didn't want to make it too realistic because the games weren't of that visual quality yet because of the platforms?
I think there was probably an element of using sort of artist license. I think they wanted to make him more appealing. You know, at the time they didn't want to just depict him as he appears in the games. There was an element of imagination, an element of sort of placing him in some sort of real world as a physical sort of solid character. So I think that was the direction they were moving in.
Okay. So, did it take you long?
It did actually.
Are there loads of Sonics cast away in a studio somewhere?
There
you were never happy of?
Probably cast away in my loft somewhere at the moment, which I occasionally venture into, not very often. But yeah, so lots of sketches which had to be approved. Obviously, it's those of you who work in the industry, you'll know that you know, part of the process is refining the work. You know, you'll start with your basic drawings. You know, that your client will want to see little changes, modifications, make sure it's in keeping with their interpretation. So there's quite a lot of process that it goes through before you get let loose on doing, you know, the final sort of colour work.
And then you spent a couple of years making the Sonic we know and love.
Yeah, on and off really, yeah. I mean, the actual illustrations themselves for the calendar were done over a period of, I think it was only about 6 weeks. The first calendar. So yeah, from start to finish. So I think probably about 4 days per illustration for the coloured versions, and they're all really big, about A1 size.
Are there other things, physical things that people may have or certainly would have seen that you directly make? Like, this is your work.
Okay. Yeah.
Are there other things that we might have that is yours?
There are, yeah. They use these artworks that you see here for some of the adventure books, you know, the gaming books, covers of those. They make ties, socks, all sorts of products, posters. Obviously, the posters actually of these artworks were still found in Sonic the Comic a few years later. I'm talking actually about Sonic the Comic as well. I had the pleasure to sort of meet the creators or some of the artists who work for Sonic the Comic at one of the other conventions, and they actually told me that they were given my artwork plus some of the original style guides to develop their characters. So it's really nice to actually sort of see how it actually moves on. But it shows you how characters develop. You know, you sort of pick bits up along the way, then that's passed on to somebody else, and they can pick the bits that they want to work with and develop. So
let's draw some Sonic. There we go. So that's how Duncan got in. If you're an aspiring artist, And we've had talks like this at some of the other replay events. Lovely chat with David Rowe last year, who did a lot of box art and was responsible for all the artwork in Nightmare. And we had a fun chat with him last year at Blackpool. And he, again, another artist like yourself, not a gamer when he was younger, but then opportunities arose, and all this sudden work and all this love for the things that you and David and other artists have created. So that's how you got there.
Yeah.
Very successfully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Let's see some of what you do. We're going to have a bit of a live draw now. So you're going to do some drawing on here. Talk us through a little bit about what you're doing. How do you want everybody to join in? What do you want everyone to do?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit difficult for those of you who couldn't see. What I'm going to do is I've sort of, in the best Blue Peter tradition, for those of you who are old enough to remember that, here's one I prepared earlier. I've drawn it really lightly because I want to be able to show you the process more easily. So I'm going to draw in quite a heavy pencil, which I wouldn't normally work in. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. But in the best teaching tradition, I have some worksheets and some handouts for you. Those of you who might be involved in education will appreciate this, but otherwise it might not be so amusing. So I'm going to hand some of these out, so you can use these. These are the original style guides. So I'm going to draw one of the actual poses from the style guide, and I'm going to try and explain a little bit about the process of drawing it, and I'm going to give you these and pencils. If you want to have a go, you can have a look at what I'm doing, you can have a look at the style guide, and you can interpret your own Sonic. Hopefully it'll work out. While we're doing this as well, I would welcome any questions, and I'll try and sort of, do a little bit of drawing, put my head up, and answer questions as well.
So please take questions on how you did Sonic, on character design, on...
Definitely, anything like that. Also, general art stuff as well. So if you're drawing something, if you've got any sort of, anything you'd like to know about arty stuff and drawing itself, I'm quite happy to answer questions on that as well, because obviously that's what I do. So.
And you go around and have a look at what people have done too.
And yes, I will go around and actually mark them afterwards, just to make sure you're all doing what you should be doing. As a big seriously, no, I'll come around and offer constructive criticism should you wish. Otherwise, I'll just sit here and draw.
So that's what we'll do for the rest of our Saturday afternoon, boys and girls. So if you haven't got any pens and paper and you'd like some, I think we have some more. He says not knowing at all if that's true. I'm sure we have some more. So yes, if you need any art, we'll get some to you. Otherwise, I really want the gallery music to be on right now. Play that for me.
I've got that.
Don't have it.
So if I don't
play Sonic music and we'll be good. Well, let's begin that then. So we've got a few of these. We definitely haven't got enough of those for everybody. So what I suggest is maybe I'll come along and I'll dish these out, and maybe you could share them with the people who are around you, and then have small localised fights over who gets to keep it. I don't know really how that's going to work, but let's share these around now so we've all got something to work from, and then I'll see if we can get more copies of that. Maybe we can.
And feel free to ask questions. If one or two of you want to come up and ask something as well, you can.
There you go. Yeah, and I'll move around. If anybody's got any questions they want to ask, while you're drawing with one hand, raise the other. I'll dish these out, and we'll
so if you're
I'll place them. Right, okay, let me sort of try and dish these out roughly in areas, and we'll have to share them around. I'm filming my gut right now on my camera. I'm just filming myself standing in front of my video camera. It's the best work I've ever done. I have no idea if I've got enough for every row. Let's find out. Yeah. Shout it along the row. Shout it along the row. One over here.
So, I'll try and give you a few little comments as I'm going along. Apologies for those of you who got to look at the back of my head, so please feel free to move around. When you start any drawing basically of Sonic, it's really the question, the first two things are two basic circles. I'm not completing them, but if you actually start your drawings, look at the style guides you've got, but also draw just two circles. And the key rule, if you're sketching anything that you're not sure of and that you're going to develop, is you start drawing really lightly. Okay, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that. So basically, light lines that you can make adjustments to. In the real world, as an illustrator, when I was actually working on these drawings, I would draw my first sort of draft, and then I would actually trace my own drawing, refine it, trace again, refine it. So it's a process of actually sort of getting everything as accurate as possible, and that's the easiest way of doing it. So that's something. So the easiest way you can replicate that is by working quite lightly to start with. I'm then going to add basic spikes. Again, if you're working lightly, it doesn't really matter if you make a mistake. Not too much of a problem at all. You can rub it out. It is allowed. Contrary to what a lot of school teachers will tell you, you are allowed to rub out stuff when you are a professional illustrator. Okay, it is allowed. You can make adjustments. So I'm just going to try and put some of the basic shapes in. Again, really, there's no set rules for drawing, or for any drawing, you know, whether it's for Sonic or anything else. If you've got that style guide, one of the things you'll do as an artist is you'll start developing your own ways of working. So you might find it easier to draw the outside of the figure first. You might want to start with the eyes. You might want to start and work from the centre and work outwards. It's not ideal, but there are no real rules when you're drawing. Let's see. So I'm just going to get these basic shapes in. You notice with Sonic as well, his nose changes shape quite dramatically according to which direction you draw him from. So front on it's quite round, and for some strange reason when he turns 3/4 it elongates strangely. So, but you'll see that in the style guides. I hope this is making sense. So back of this, the spike at the back there. I'm going to get up and move out your way in a minute and see, to show you these basic lines. So again, I've done my fine lines which I'm making adjustments to, so if you were to see the paper close up, you'd see...
Take it down a minute,
yeah, actually, yeah, please do. Yes. You see all the practice like anything else. Yeah, I mean, I think anybody will tell you, sort of in any sort of art situation, the more you do particular activity, sort of art-wise and or technique, the quicker you become at it, and the more, hopefully more efficient as well.